Hello, Judy here. I wanted to talk a little bit about artistic vision and developing your artistic vision. Often when we are out, we're taking photos and we think, boy, if I could just paint this photo just like it is, that's the end of the painting process. And really, it's more about the vision that you have for that photo. The photo is just a stepping off point. It is basically finding the right shapes and the shapes for a composition and that kind of thing. But really, it should be more about your vision. And let me tell you about how I developed my vision. If you are a plein air artist, often people go out with the intention of painting what is in front of them and painting it as they see it in a moment of time. And that is all well and good, and that's wonderful to do that if you want to do that. Often though, when I go out to do some plein air sketching or viewing, it's mainly just to study the atmosphere that's out there at the time, how the light is striking objects, how the shadows are affected, how colors are affected, and studying that moment of atmosphere, how it looks. And then once I've studied the look, I can then apply it to any painting that I have. That same atmosphere can be applied to other subjects. So let me show you a little bit of what I'm talking about as far as the photo being the starting point, but is definitely not the end point. And often I start with a vision that I want to have and then search for the subject matter that will fit the vision. Let me point you to my desktop and I'll talk about what I have here. In this painting, this was my vision. The atmospheric background, the sun coming from the backside. It is more of a backlit, early morning scene. And with the darker areas up front, things in shadow. So that was my vision. But let me show you where I started from. Here's the photo that I started from. Now we're getting ready to paint this painting in my Saturday workshop coming up this Saturday, June 27th. So if you want to join me and paint this with me, you can sign up on my website at judymud.com. under workshops. It's online on Zoom. And so that's what we're doing this Saturday. But this is what we're starting with. When I took this photo, all I cared about was the shape and the dock and how it looked. I took several photos of this boat, some with the tall masts and different angles of this boat, and I settled on this one. But I did not like the background necessarily. And so for my vision, I wanted a soft, atmospheric, distant background that was just barely seen. I thought, well, but I do need to have something to refer to. So I took another photo and used this to inspire me to put this background in. And then you can see that I did create some of these shapes. I even got the flag in here, a few shapes, a few buildings, but they're so distant, you don't see them like this. It's not the bright sunny day that you have here. These are both in New England, they're not even in the same area. This, I think, is Manchester by the Sea, and this is in Portland, Portland, Maine. So this is using my subject matter, but having a vision to create using that subject matter. Like I said, I often go and have a vision, a creative vision that I want to create, and then I go look for the subject for it that will fit and that will work. Another one that we're working on in my class, weekly classes, this was my subject matter. This is what inspired me. Now, in this case, it was the cloud. It was the blue sky. I did want that vision of it. However, my photo wasn't working as a composition at all. Straight lines, there was just nothing to connect. And so I had to use this and create something that would connect, palm trees or something like that. Reshape this so that I have more of a sweeping flow into the painting as far as composition goes. So I searched for more material, found a few palm trees to refer to, and on a smaller piece of paper, which is what I've used normally. I created my vision first. This is my thinking, how it's going to work. And then in class, we created this. And this is still in process. I have to put a few tiny people on the beach, and then it will be finished. But it was the magnificent cloudy sky that I wanted to be the star of this painting. That was my vision. That was what I wanted. And I made everything else work to create that. So how do you develop an artistic vision? I think the best way, and I think that's the one thing that people need to do more so than go out and take a lot of photos. And, you know, photos are great. You have to have them, absolutely, you know, if you work in the studio. But study the possibilities. Study what's available out there. Let me show you some of my books that I have. These are all me studying possibilities for vision. Here's one that we just finished, and here's the final product. And this is a noontime daylight. So how would this be affected? And so that's what I worked here. I worked out, okay, so there's a lot of moisture, humidity in the area. There's a lot of softness, strong lighting, and strong lighting hitting this wheat color field. It was barren. So I studied how does the light affect everything and the shadows, and that's how I created my vision. Now, I can take this same vision, not the subject matter, but the vision of it, and put it on any other subject that I want. So now I have something to refer to in the future as far as possibilities. What can I do with another barn, or what can I do in a different type of scene? Here's another vision. It's not necessarily a painting, but it's the vision of a backlit early morning sun and how it affects these. Now this can actually go darker even. But the only thing I took from the photo itself was the shape of the barn and a few of the shapes of the hills. It was actually in the middle of the day in overcast day, so it had nothing to do with the vision at all. This is just this is a vision. Now I can take this same look and apply it to other photos as I want to create. This is a midday, very dull kind of day. Again, the colors are more muted. Here's one that's a city scene with a sunset. So I thought, okay, how would that light affect the ground below? Everything that we talk about as far as lighting goes, and moisture, fog, rain, all of that is how does that affect the ground below? And so you think, okay, if it's got a little pink tint, then the pink tint's going to be in a lot of the areas. It's going to be on the street, the buildings. And because there's very little light hitting the street, it's going to be a little muted in color and dark. And so that's how you create your vision. So study vision. Here's another one. The light is coming in from the left. And so creating shadows. And so how does that work? That's bright sunlight coming that way. Here's another one, bright sunlight coming from the right. So therefore these lights are hitting here. You have shadows on this side and long shadows this way. So this is about more like maybe 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening kind of lighting. So when you do plein air, often, you know, try to study what the vision is, not just as the subject, but how the light is affecting areas of the subject. Here's another painting that has nothing to do with the actual reality of it. This is a sunset. I was working out how this would look. These boats are actually at the same time of day as this broad daylight. So it's not, my vision had nothing to do with the reality. I just wanted the shapes that I picked up from my photo and use those to create the composition. But my vision was entirely different. It was more about the sunset. So what I did was study how does that sunset, the lighting from the sunset, affect the objects down below. And so all of these are possibilities of lighting future lighting, how it will affect the lighting. Again, this scene did not have strong shadows or anything like that, but I created that look. Okay, if the light's coming this way, all this would be in shadow, this would be in shadow, and that's how this was developed. So think of not just the object that you're painting. It's a starting off point. Something, you know, like this is a starting off point, but it's not your vision necessarily. Now, if you happen to have a perfect photo with the perfect lighting and has everything just like you want it, fine, that's one thing. But most often it is not exactly how you want it. And then also think of the possibilities that you can create by having this one subject, but changing the light from fog to backlit to whatever it is that you want to do, limited palette, colorful palette. And you could have dozens of paintings of just one subject with a variety of creative visions that you have for it. So create, you can create a book like I have here of just visions. It's all about, then I can flip through it anytime I want and say, okay, this might work as a sunset or whatever that is at the time. Anyway, wanted you to see what we're again, I'm having Saturday workshops online on Zoom. This Saturday is the boat, and I have several throughout the summer. And I hope you join me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.